Stephen, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, so please let me share my screen real quick and it should be up and running. Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hello there once again.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Steven Oladele, and super excited to be sharing my thoughts here today. So I'm going to be talking about how you can leverage data for the business of if you have a business, for business growth, and how you can also leverage data for your startup. Yeah, so once again, my name is Steven Oladele, currently a cloud machine learning engineer and a data scientist and AI consultant, independent data scientist and AI consultant. I also am a lead volunteer for an AI community here in Port Harcourt School of AI, where we try to make world-class AI education and technology accessible. All right. So in this presentation, I like to set the tone for our individual conversations. So just to make sure that we know what to expect from from presentations like this. So are you seeing my slide?
Yes.
Okay. So just so that we know what to expect from our presentations like this. All right. So sorry, what you learn real quick. So let me just pull that out. So you learn about what type of data is available for your organization. Some of us have the necessary data to grow our organization, but we've not been told how to use it yet or what it is. I heard the first speaker, which is of course Divine, talking about introducing you to data, the concept of the necessary concept of big data, and I think he did quite a really good job at that. So I'm not really going to stress on that again. I'm going to be talking about the technologies for solving problems with such data you have or you might have in your organization. And I'm also going to be talking about business growth from data-driven decision making, which is of course the hot spot of getting the optimal value from data. All right. So when we talk about data, what we're really looking at is when we talk about leveraging data for your business growth, what we're looking at is a three-sphere thing. Of course, this is more approximated, but we're talking about something in three phases. And looking at this thing, we're talking about the data in itself. You might have data good enough, the data in itself, or you might not. We're talking about the technology for processing the data or deriving the necessary insight from the data, from technology, from storing the data to getting the actual insights from the data, to also decision making, which is like the vital thing when it comes to leveraging data for business growth. So when we talk about business growth and data, it has to do with excuse me. Hold on. All right. So when we talk about business growth for data, it really has to do with this. So your business grows just as your business grows not just by having the necessary data involved in things, but also by using the technology to derive insights from the data and finally having that decision-making process, kind of taking action based on the insights. So business growth is from here, which is data, to here, decision-making. So this just basically tells you that you might have data, but it's not necessarily, you really can't leverage it for growth unless you do these other things like using the technology to derive the necessary insight from the data and then making decisions based on these insights to derive the optimal value. Because eventually what you want to go from is from here, if you have the data, to here, deriving insights. So that's what we're currently looking at. So let me just go real quick. So real quick, let's talk about the data in itself. So when we talk about data, I heard the first speaker talk about, introduce the concept of, big data. When we talk about data, we're looking at two different types of data, two different spheres of data, and then put it that way. This is, of course, a more recent thing, big data being a more recent sphere. We're looking at what we call small data in quotes, and what we call, big data in quotes. And when we talk about small data, just an approximation is that it's just basically data that really fits into your Excel spreadsheet. So this is probably data you've been using before. You talk about your customer records, customer transactions you have in your Excel spreadsheet. Maybe you have an Excel 2007 or 13 or so on. It just those basically those information that can sit into your spreadsheet that you can really use in your spreadsheet, your database. Maybe you were using a relational database before to store all the records from your business, how your business operation works, and all of those things. So that's what we tag as small data, input small data. It just basically things that can fit into your Excel spreadsheet, or your database, your relational database. And this is where most small businesses are. Most small businesses are those that actually curate small data. Not all small businesses, of course. Some startups and small businesses have to thrive on large amounts of data sets. But most small businesses you see, especially in developing countries like ours and so on, are in this sphere of data, this sphere of data pretty much. So examples of where you see these are examples of technologies you see that can actually use this data set or actually accustomed to this traditional data set. We call them traditional methods. Microsoft Excel, of course, you probably know them before. You have Google Sheets, you have Microsoft Excel, and you have IBM SPSS. Those are basically for statistical analysis, and so on. So when we come to big data, what we should be looking at is data that cannot easily fit into your regular spreadsheet or database. So you have data that you cannot use ordinary Excel sheets to hold on your laptop, or you can use IBM SPSS to hold on your PC or your servers on premise, your very small servers on premise. So that's what we call big data. And I heard Divine talk about these three basic V's of big data. You have the velocity, you have the veracity, and you have of course, you have variety as well. And of course, you have, which is one of the vital things, which is volume. So this is the big data is just basically things that you cannot traditionally use. You cannot use traditional methods to handle pretty much. And these traditional methods are spreadsheets or relational database, or all of those things. And this is where you find most medium to large scale businesses. And these are some examples of technologies that you can really use to either store this data or process the data. So you have Hadoop. I heard Divine talk about that as well. You have more recent technologies that are really proven helpful, like Google Cloud, a cloud computing platform, Microsoft Azure, and these platforms have their equivalent technologies to Hadoop to help you really get a hang of your big data, regardless of how it's coming, how fast it's coming, velocity, or what type of data is coming in, whether it's a structured or unstructured or semi-structured data. They have AWS as well and Databricks. These are very common tools you can use to process your data. So when I give presentations like this, I really just want to make sure that you're taking something, which is the facts, some very, very, very key best practices and things and suggestions and tips that you should know. So here are some facts that you should know about in having data in your position. So any data you have or we have in your organization is just really meant to solve problems. So you're meant to derive insights from the data. So you're meant to derive proper value from the data. And you deriving proper value from the data is that the data in itself is meant to really solve problems that your business faces, meaning it has to provide that value for the growth of your business. So you might have data, but if it's not providing the necessary value or not solving any problem in your business, it's like you're really wasting money, or you're wasting storage space, or what have you, or just wasting the potential of the data, let's say. Right. So essentially, data is meant to answer questions in your organization. The data is meant to answer your business most disturbing questions. So if you have a business and you have problems, you need to have data to really see how you can get the necessary answers from those questions that your business poses. So as a businessman, you have a lot of questions to answer. What's my customer base like? Where is my customers from? What are they buying? What will they buy in the future? And all of those things. So your data really is meant to help you really answer those questions, your business most pressing questions. All right. So where should you start when it comes to utilizing data? First off, we do what we call, there's this thing we call data strategy, but we try to analyze where you currently are. So first off, you need to analyze your organization, analyze your organizational scale. No, are you a large scale company or a small scale company? Are you in terms of size and customer base? Do you have a large customer base? What's your operation like? How does your how does your team work? Is it a cross functional team? Is it a national? Is it a multinational organization? You need to really understand that scale of your organization for you to really know what type of data you are, what sphere of data you are, whether it's in a small data sphere or the big data sphere. So you need to go on to understand your business objective. What is the overall objective of your business? I mean, you already have plans in place. You have strategic plans put in place. You've done strategic business planning and all of those things. You need to make sure that you understand what your business objective is. What are we looking at gunning for this quarter? What are we looking at gunning for this year, for this fiscal year, for the long-term objective, 5, 10 years? What's our business objective or our strategy? What we're trying to pursue? You need to make sure you understand that before you can really know how to really utilize data or get data depending on the problem. So understand your business use cases. I know it's quite obvious, but people don't do this. It's not really about having data in itself. What's your business use case like? What's the typical thing your business is trying to solve? What are the typical problems? Of course, your business probably isn't just trying to solve one problem. It's trying to solve a broad spectrum of problems. You need to really understand what are the problems your business is trying to solve, and that's where understanding your business use cases are. So you collecting the right data for your business really needs for your business needs, sorry, and use cases mostly requires you setting up a data strategy. A data strategy is about understanding what you want to use that data for and understanding how you will utilize that data and how it really aligns with your common objectives. For example, I'll give an example of, say, One Finance or Carbon, which is, of course, a Nigerian company. Their business use case, their core business is about providing loans for marginalized people, to make sure that they give you data-driven insights to provide loans, right? They have to make sure that they are getting the data needed, right, on their customers to be able to provide loans to the very basics. So it's not just getting any data, it's making sure that they get data on their customers so that it can enable their business process. So you should also know your data sources, know where your data from. It might seem obvious, but there are lots of ways data can come in. There are lots of ways, both internally facing, ways you can get data that can really help you make data driven decisions on your employees, or externally facing, making data driven decisions on your customers. So you need to make sure that you know your data sources. You need to make sure that you consider all sources of your data and know where other data can come from, or your existing data is, so that actually relates to your business operation. Because here's one thing: it's not enough having data. You need to make sure that it can answer questions. That was what we talked about in the previous slide. You need to make sure that it can actually help your business process or help your business operation. Then, of course, the last one, like I said, I'm approximating this, but last one is planning and costing. So you need to make sure that you consider how much it will cost you to keep storing data for the long term. So based on your data strategy, so for example, I'm saying I'm storing data for 3-5 years. You need to plan how much it will cost you to store data, the technologies that will be involved in storing this data for you, and curating new data. How would I get in new data? Are there new sources? Do I need to go to a third party, maybe like the Nigerian government, for example, to get more data on that will help my business process? Or do I need to collaborate with another venture to get more data that will help my business process? And you really need to know all these things, plan for them, and understand what it will cost your business based on your business use cases and business needs. All right, so we have gone from data. Now we are looking at technology, and technology there is really for deriving insights with the data. So when you talk about technology, you're looking at first, how will I store the data? You heard Divine talk about the data storage being a problem. And that's one thing we're looking at, because you need to consider, okay, I'm at the sphere whereby I'm at the stage whereby I'm on the small data stage, right? What type of storage will I consider? Am I going to be considering on-premise hard drives, which is of course very small hard drives I can easily carry around, or on-premise maybe servers with what we call different clusters and all of those things, or maybe you can use a more big data oriented storage, of course, cloud computing and all of those things. So typically when we're talking about data storage, we're talking about two things, like I said: cloud or on-premise. On-premise could be your hard drive, it could be your 5 terabyte hard drive, or you can have cloud platforms like Google Cloud, Azure, Cloudera, and all of those things to help store it. So you need to really understand the perspective, understand what your business needed. And this all boils down to understanding and planning for your business needs. What type of data do you have? What type of data do you want to have? And what type of data do you want to create in the future? You'll be able to understand what type of data storage you want to use. So that's the first thing when it comes to using technology. And the other one is traditional analytics. Like I said, the technology is about deriving insights from the data. And a traditional analytics is probably something your business is already doing. For example, you log your customer data into an Excel sheet, and you have somebody manually go through the Excel sheets to understand patterns from how your customers buy and all of those things. So that's one way. Of course, you probably have analytics. So when we're talking about traditional analytics, we're talking about analytics that is pretty much done by a human. Just somebody goes out there, looks at the data, and tries to derive the insight from the data using a software or technology that really helps aid them, create graphs, create pie charts, or all of those things. So in this field, we're having what we call data analysis. Data analysis is about, looking back in history and saying, okay, based on the past records of my customers, what's the trend? How many people are buying from Ibadan? How many people are buying from Port Harcourt City? How many people are buying from Obirikwe and all of those things? So you look at the past records that you have on your customers or your business, and you try to make deductions from there. So data analytics is quite different from data analysis, although it leverages on data analysis. So when you've derived these insights and said, okay, fine, I know that 50% of my customers are buying from Ibadan, 50% of my customers are buying from what's it called, Obikwe, or any other part of Port Harcourt City, then I can know for sure that if I place an advertisement more towards Ibadan, people in Ibadan, this particular type of advertisement towards people in Ibadan, I'll be able to make sure that I generate more customers there. And if I place a particular product in Obirikwe, I can generate more customers here because I've already gotten the past deductions on where my customers are before. And when you're talking about analytics, you're talking about what we call prescriptive analytics, and you're trying to okay, first off, let's talk about descriptive. You're trying to describe facts. That is where data analysis comes in. You're trying to describe facts based on your previous assumptions or based on your previous records. And you talk about prescriptive. You're trying to prescribe, okay, based on the fact that I have 50% of customers in 50% of customers in Ibadan. And most likely, if I place this kind of advertisement in Ibadan, I'll most likely get more customers. That's where you're trying to prescribe. And you're also using our predictive analytics. You're trying to predict what will happen based if you take decision A or take decision B and all of those things. These are all types of analytics, and most of them can be done through using traditional tools. I'm going to be explaining in a few minutes. And we also have business intelligence. So you have, it's also called I think business analysis or all of those things. So you have BI, you have this bunch of data or this large cluster of data, and you're trying to see how you can generate the necessary intelligence from that. All these boils down to having the proper understanding of analysis, analytics, and go on. So the next type of technology we use to derive insights from data is called AI-powered analytics. So AI-powered analytics is where you understand that this is, of course, the buzzword now. You have machine learning, you have deep learning, and all of those things. These are all automated. So one of the key differences between the traditional analytics and the AI-powered analytics is this one is done by humans, and this one is totally automated by a computer. So for example, a human can easily see this data and recognize the patterns, know that, okay, for sure I have 50% of my customers and Ibadan, and definitely for sure if I can do this particular side of things, I can increase my revenue. But this is done by a human. But when it comes to AI-powered analytics, it does all of those automatically. So the computer goes from understanding your data, which is of course doing the data analysis, to having to perform predictive analytics on it, saying, okay, for example, I'm the computer, for example, I might generate the insights that, oh, I know for sure that 70% of the customers are coming from this particular side of things. Then therefore, I know for sure that if I try this thing, maybe if I try advertising this particular products to them, or pushing out this particular online advertisements to this particular segment of users, I might likely increase the revenue of the business. And this is what the machine tries to do. So once again, this is about humans just doing the analytics, while this is about the machine doing the analytics. So examples of this, you have document analysis. So for example, you go through a bunch of documents. A normal human would actually have to go through a bunch of documents to really understand what that business document is saying. But right now you can have machines understand this, and this is an area called natural language processing. And you have video and photo analysis and recognition. So for example, you have photos and you want to recognize your brand in the photos, or you have videos and you want to recognize your brand in the videos. Now, rather than having a human do that, kind of analyze that, and and all of those things, you now have humans doing all of those analysis for you. So you go from here pretty much to here and here, and we're going to be discussing that soon. So when we are talking about traditional analytics tools, you have things like Tableau. Tableau is one of the, although it's arguably also used for big data, but we mostly use Tableau for traditional types of small data and all of those things, just to create very good visualizations and all of those things. So you have Microsoft Azure as well, which is probably the most popular one. You have SAS, and you have SAS is also arguably used for some form of big data as well, but it's quite limited in how it can handle big data compared to very, very classical, very custom big data tools. So you have IBM SPSS as well. For this, you have QLake and so on. You can always Google this. You can always check them out and all of those things. So you have AI-powered analytics tools where you have TensorFlow, which is a framework for building AI tools, machine learning. You have PyTorch, which is also a framework for that. You have Cloud AI platform. This is offered by Google Cloud. It's a it's an end-to-end platform whereby you can just get your data in, spin up a particular machine to really understand what your data is like after working on your data, making sure it's understandable by the machine, and serving the insights your system generates to the users. So you have Microsoft Azure and ML Studio. You have AWS SageMaker. These are all cloud vendor tools. And you have Scikit-learn, which is very popular for prototyping in machine learning. And you have Google Cloud AutoML. This is a no code, so you don't have to write code. Most of these tools, except ML Studio, you probably don't have to write code for ML Studio and Google Cloud AutoML most times. But for TensorFlow, PyTorch, Cloud AI platform, SageMaker, Scikit-learn, you probably need an expertise for machine learning. But with Google Cloud AutoML, you only need to know what you want to do, and you need to have the data necessary for what you want to do before you can use this technology to help you derive insights. All right. So how would you know which approach and technology is right for your business? So the short answer is understand your business needs. Make sure you understand what your business wants first, and understand your business use cases before you jump right into choosing an approach or choosing a technology needed for your data. Then go from 1 to 3. Go from 1 to 3 is, this is typically what I advise you to do. Understand where your data needs to be, which is the storage. Then go on to use traditional analytics. If you're a small business or a startup, that's what I'm saying. Understand where your data needs to be. Is it going to be on the cloud, or is it going to be on premise? Because there are lots of considerations. Because of time, I'm not really going to talk about those, but there are lots of considerations when it comes to understanding your data storage. You talk about security, you talk about scalability and all of those things. But go from here, understanding where your data needs to be, to doing traditional analytics. Have some people do some very, very traditional analytics for you before you now go to AI powered analytics. Because without doing this one, you cannot necessarily know how well this one is particularly going to help you out. So you need to make sure that this is the benchmark for, because this is where you need to be. This is where your business needs to be. So you have to go from 1 to 2 to 3. Understand where your data needs to be. Perform traditional analytics to know what is the baseline requirement, what is the baseline performance you have. Then of course go on to using AI-powered analytics for that. All right. So yeah, like I said, also create a short and long-term AI adoption strategy with key business stakeholders. So if you're not just a one-man business or all of those things, of course, you probably might have investors and all of those things. You need to make sure that they understand where they're going to, what you're doing, what you're going to with the AI you're trying to, because eventually, like I said, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get to this place. And for you to get to this place, you need to make sure that you create an AI adoption strategy. You need to make sure if it's long-term, if it's short-term, whatever it is, make sure you discuss it with your business stakeholders and let them understand the risks involved in using AI, or things like ethical risk, biases, governance, and all of those things. Make sure they can understand that before you actually adopt that. So that's the approach I would advise you take when it comes to choosing the technology and approach needed for your business. All right, so the key point here is for true transformation and business growth to happen, it's really all about strategy. You have your business strategy, you need to make sure it aligns with your data strategy, how you intend to use the data you have currently, or how you intend to collect more data in the future, and AI strategy eventually, how you intend to apply machine-powered intelligence and to derive insights from your data, because that's what eventually leads to optimal business growth. Like I said, going back to this slide again, just going back to this slide again, business growth grows from understanding data to technology, and then finally decision making. So I'm just going to go real quick to all right, so the next key point is you need to make sure that your approach, the approach and tech will meet the business needs and the required time, because you are planning for a short-term approach. If you're planning for a short-term approach, you need to make sure that the technology you are using is actually beneficial for that short term. If you're planning for a long term based on what you agree with your stakeholders, you need to make sure that the approach and the technology available can actually help you during that time as well before adopting these technologies. Because here's the thing, these technologies sometimes can be pretty expensive. You can have talents, you're trying to hire talents and they can be pretty expensive for you, or you're trying to outsource them, they can be pretty expensive for you. So you need to make sure that your business understands the risks and the time involved taken for these technologies to manifest their true potential for your business. So finally, you have your decision-making with data. It's not just enough to derive insights. The true value is trying to use these insights to make decisions or take actions. All right. So after adopting the technology to derive the necessary insights from your data, your job really is only complete, if those insights can actually drive actions that improve your business. That's where the real value is. Can those insights you've gotten drive actions to improve your business? If you're doing traditional analytics, for example, if you say 50% of your customers are in Ibadan, and you kind of do some analysis and say, okay, let's advertise more business here. Are they actually driving, based on the insights you've gotten and the decision you've taken to advertise more business, is it actually giving you any business value? If it's not giving you business value, you have to rethink and reevaluate again on all of those things. So for example, if you're an online store, for example, and you're trying to help improve your customer clusters and all of those, you're trying to market to a particular customer segment, you're trying to market a particular ad online and all of those things. How many people are clicking on the ad? How many people are buying stuff if they actually click on the ad and all of those things? Yes, you've derived insights that lots of my customers are coming through mobile phone or coming through PCs and all of those things, but the true value comes in when you try to make decisions with the data. The successful adoption of AI technology for your business data involves hand in hand machine and human decision making with insights derived from your data by the machine. Like Divine said, it's all about human insights are still needed. You don't leave out human insights when it comes to decision making. This is where your successful adoption of this technology works, right? You have machines generate the insights for you, or you have humans really evaluate the insights to know if it's actually related to what you want for your business, and it actually solves the business problem or answers the business questions that you've put out there. So, on a very, very important note, I want you to just make sure that you assess where your business is currently at, and then, take the needed approach to get or use the right data for your business growth, right? So this is a quote which I think your business will need. Great companies of the present and the future. Of course, you see Google, you see One Finance, you see Indichina, and all of those. These are actually close to home companies, or companies like Amazon, Netflix, driving total revenues with data. So great companies of the present, Netflix, Google, and all of those things, and those of the future, which I believe your company will be part of, are those that will be built on their data or are built on their data. You see Google now, of course, most of their technologies are powered by data-driven insights, machine learning, AI-powered technology, and all of those things. It's just because they've built their company on data. Their company is just based on information. You look at Amazon, right? Most of I think about, pretty much 75% of Netflix revenue comes from recommending movies and all of those things, according to McKinsey. Yeah. And everything. So it's absolutely crucial that that great companies of the present and of the future are those that will be built on their data. It's no more about making blind strategies anymore. It's about data-driven decision making, data-driven insights. Right. So yeah, thanks for attending. I can take questions if there are any.
Okay. Thank you very much, Stephen.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you very much. So I think we had network issues with some participants, and the questions, what would do it if, I don't know if anybody here has questions for Divine and also for Stephen. Okay, so what will happen is the questions are going to be posted on our Twitter page, then we'll actually redirect them to you and to Divine, or we'll actually create a thread on it, on any questions related to data, big data, small data, data science, or anybody that wants to take the part towards data and data engineer. So thank you very much once again, Divine. So and Stephen, really had a nice time. We learned a lot from you, from Divine talking about data, explaining what data is, down to the history of data, how data came about, Hadoop, and everything. So we thank you very much, Mr. Divine, and also for Mr. Stephen talking about data and business, how to leverage data on business, how to grow your data, how to grow your business using data. The word, like he said, there's one particular thing I won't forget. He said, the word is data drives the business, and business in the 21st century is not all about, you making posts and making sales without, it's not you making posts without driven data. So we need data for us to make it big and to make it to the second stage. So thank you very much for having us. I'm Louis Whyte, lead Accelerate Hub. Mr. Gordon Jimmy has anything to say related to data before we wrap it up. Mr. Jimmy, are you there?
So, yes, I'm here. Sorry,
Okay.
let me. Okay, good evening, guys.
Okay.
Basically, I don't have anything to say for today, so I'll come back tomorrow. I think most of the questions I would follow the thread on Twitter to see the questions that would possibly be asked. But hopefully, when we come back tomorrow, we'll share. I really want to appreciate Mr. Divine first of all. I, I listened to the part when he said data is opportunity. That struck me because we're in a world where a lot of things is moving, a lot of information is flying from one end to the other. And rather than leverage on what is information, we just play around this information. So that is one word that we should go home with tonight, that data is actually opportunity. And also Mr. Stephen came in and pointed out some stuff for companies. I think that is one thing that most people at this point have not considered. A lot of businesses fail to understand that for them to make certain decisions and for them to 10x their results for marketing and for decision making, there needs to be a certain amount of focus into the whole system to find out what data they need, what are the trends, what are the costs, what are the competition doing, where is this system or this industry or this market going to, and that's all. That information is based on data, is based on data that they can harvest and harness from the digital space. So I think Mr. Stephen, also awesome job that you have done tonight, and I believe that everybody who was actively involved in this got something, and this is just day one. So coming back day two, I believe day two will be much would be deeper, would have value, awesome value too, just like today. And I want to also encourage us as people to invite people to be part of this. This is an awesome idea from you. So basically, that's my own take for today at least.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Gordon Jimmy.
Yeah.
So any other thing will be posted on our Twitter page, Accelerate Hub NG, for those of us that have not yet followed. And do well to invite others tomorrow. Thank you very much, Mr. Steven. Thank you very much, Mr. Divine. Thank you very much, everybody that participated. And God bless you. Have a nice evening.
Yeah, nice.
Cheers.